So, age features of endocrine system. If we will talking about endocrine system, we should say that the system comes from each of three germs layer, and endoderm and ectoderm and mesoderm. In general, the different classes of hormones also arise from the different germ layers. You could see the picture and different germ layers, and you could find here this only like example. Here we can find this new from ectoderm. This is central nervous system, neural cells, and also here we have a part of hypothalamus pituitary gland system, and there most of glands also, and most of endocrine system created from endoderm. The endocrine system, together with nervous system, regulates and coordinates the function of other organs and system, but their action, as you know, is manifested in different ways. If we will talking about endocrine system, we should see that transmission of information with the help of hormones is carried out 10 times slower than nervous transmission. Which usually allows the body to immediately respond to various environmental stimuli or internal functional changes in the base of what we have with you reflectory reaction. Where under the influence of hormones are those body functions require minutes or hours to start and regulate. The highest speed for hormone, it will be for a few minutes, like sympathadrenal system, but with participation of nervous system. Some hormones will be start work only after few days after stimulus affect some glands. Endocrine and nervous system works harmoniously in the body. The functioning of the endocrine system is under the control of the central nervous system. If I will remind you about some function of hormones, we should say about act of the on the genetic apparatus of cells, participation in implementation of genetic program of development. This is if we will talking with you about steroid hormones. This is their action always. Also, influence on metabolism, growth, physical and mental development. If we will talking about development of human embryo, organ system has differentiation under the influence of hormones, obligatory. Also, hormones are necessary for successful manifestation of reproductive function like fertilization and embryo implantation, pregnancy, and lactation. Normal growth and development is determined by the combined action of hormones like growth hormone, thyroid hormones, and insulin. If we are talking generally about aging affects the glands for internal secretion, we are talking about affecting production and secretion of hormones, and this age could cause some disease for endocrine glands. Production hormones such as growth hormone, cortisol, aldosterone, sexual hormones, hormones of thyroid glands decrease with age, obligatory. I will remind you scheme of all of our hormones, main glands. Here we have with you hypothalamus, pituitary gland. You remember about connection between hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Hypothalamus produce releasing factor plus dopamine plus vasopressin plus oxytocin. Pituitary gland produce for us growth hormone, thyroid stimulative hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicular stimulated hormone, Here is melanocyte-stimulated hormone, showed like also luteinized hormone, prolactin, oxytocin, vasopressin are released. Oxytocin and vasopressin are released from pituitary gland to the blood. After we have this euthyroid and parathyroid gland, thymus, liver as organ where we have production of many biological active substances, also substances, insulin like growth hormone factor, which important for work of our growth hormone, for somatotropic hormone. So huge system of hormone for stomach, our stomach regulation, pancreas, kidney, plus adrenal gland, plus we are talking about 6 glands, about testes and about ovary and placenta. Let's start from the pituitary gland. If we will talk about pituitary gland, it begins to function from the 9th to 10th week of the fetal period. The pituitary gland has an ectodermal origin. The anterior and middle or intermediate lobes are formed from the epithelium of the oral cavity, but neurohypophysis is formed from the medulla. In children, the front and anterior and middle lobes are separated by a gap. Newborn boys, the mass of the pituitary gland is 0.125. In girls, 0.250 gram. So in 2 times biggest, which begins to increase in the first year of life and especially at the age 4-5 years. Until age of 11 years old, the growth of the pituitary gland slows down, and from the 11 it accelerates again. By the time of puberty, the mass of the pituitary gland is on average like 0.2035 gram, but till 18-20 years, it will be increased in 2 times. The diameter of pituitary gland reaches 10-15 millimeter before adulthood. If we will talking about newborns, baby, thyroid stimulating adrenocorticotropic hormone and growth hormone, which are produced by cell of adenohypophysis, are extremely important. And let's talking about these hormones. The level of growth hormone is the highest for newborn babies. After birth, in the blood content decreases significantly, reaching the norm of an adult by the age of 3-5 years. Somatotropic hormones or growth hormones determines growth process in the body. Children with insufficient secretion of growth hormone develop into dwarfs with the normal physique. If will be happened some problem with growth retardation after 2 years old, it could be depends by somatotropic hormone. The hormone is determined in the pituitary gland of a 9-week-old fetus and increases 12,000 times by the end of the fetal period. In the blood at the 12th week and in 5-8 months old fetus, it's about 100 times more than in adults. A concentration of somatotropic hormone in the blood children continue to be high. Also during the first week after birth, it decreases by more than 50%. Up to 3-5 years old, the level of growth hormone is the same as for adults. Newborns, babies, somatotropic hormone participate in immunological protection of the body, affecting lymphocytes. What is important for immune protection after birth? Somatotropic hormones ensures normal physical development for the child under physiological conditions. Hormone secretion is episodic in nature. What does it mean? It means that for children time, somatotropic hormone secreted 3-4 times during the day, but the main amount released during the deep night sleep is much more than in adults. And we say with you that we are growing in the night, we are growing when we are sleeping, and it's absolutely true because the highest level secretion and production of growth hormones happen in the deep night sleep, and important for good growing for baby will be in time sleeping, not only that will be waiting for the night. And it is believed that the growth of fetus is mainly under the influence of placental hormones, factors of the mother's body, and depends on genetic program of development. The cessation of growth occurs probably because the general hormone situation changes in connection with reaching puberty. Sex hormones reduce the activity of somatotropic hormone. I have been talking to you about this situation, and I told you that when we have period of puberty period, when we have period teenager, this time growth hormone is stopped, and as usually sex hormones limited our induce limitation of our growth hormone. And I would like to show you people who in childhood time, how I told you before, after 2 years old, they start have problem with pituitary gland and with production of growth hormone. From the left picture here, we have story about deficiency of growth hormone. And important that this time, these people has unbalanced growth process, but not have any affecting of their brain and nervous system development and intellectual development. And at the same time, people with excessive concentration of growth hormone, you could see also, you can compare these two men with normal size of women, but what is important also, how I told you before, is that when we are talking about growth hormone and excessive concentration of growth hormone, we are talking about, first of all, development of linear growing of bones, but not so much growing of internal organs. And the biggest problem for these people, that their internal organs, visceral system, not so huge and not enough for length of their body. Next, what should we say? We will talking about thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone regulates the activity of thyroid gland according to needs of body. Thyroid stimulating hormone producing cells appear in 8-week-old embryos, and in 4-month-old fetus there are 3-5 times larger than in adults. This level persists until birth. Thyroid stimulated hormones begins to affect the thyroid gland of the fetus from the second third of pregnancy, but it depends on function of the thyroid glands. On thyroid stimulated hormone in the fetus is less expressed than in adults. In the first year of child's life, the concentration of TSH in the pituitary gland increases. Significant increase in the synthesis and secretion is observed twice, immediately after birth and in the period preceding puberty. The first increase in the secretion of TSH associated with the adaptation of newborns to the condition of existence. The second increasing corresponds to the hormonal adjustment, which includes increasing the function of the gonads. The maximum secretion of the hormone is reached at the age 21 to 30 years. And from the moment 51 till 85 years, its value is halved. So decrease in 2 times. The thyroid gland is one of the first and main hormone to develop during ontogenesis. When we are talking about thyroid glands, we should say that thyroid, before we have talking about thyroid stimulative hormone, so it's about work of hypothalamus pituitary gland. Now we are talking about directly thyroid glands. So this gland developed from the lower part of the wall of the pharynx in the third, fourth week of embryonic development. 7-week follicles of thyroid gland begin to forming. By the 11th week, they are already able to accumulate iodine. Third month and end of the third month, the secretion of thyroxine into the blood begins. Until this moment, there is a protein that binds iodine in the blood. In the fetus, the thyroid gland is sensitive to the stimulating effect of thyroid stimulative hormone. Thyroid hormones affect the thyroid stimulating activity of the pituitary gland. Thyroid hormones play an important role in the development of the fetus. The process of tissue growth and differentiation associated only with thyroid hormones, especially the central nervous system and neuroendocrine regulatory system, absolutely depends on thyroid hormones. With an excess or lack of thyroid hormones in prenatal ontogeny, the development of the central nervous system and the process of ossification the bones are disturbed. The insufficient function of the thyroid gland of the fetus can be partly compensated by the hormones of the mother's body during pregnancy time. But after the birth, the child, the lack of hormones becomes dangerous for its growth and development and leads to cretinism. Look, please, the picture what I showed to you, you probably saw this picture before, but what I want to show you, these same babies, after birth, they has problem with deficiency of thyroid gland hormones, and the same baby after treatment by hormones or by iodine, we don't know, but after treatment, and the same girl I have showed to you. This girl, look, this normal girl, 8 years old babies, but this one, this cretinism, and this is she's same girl, but after treatment. Of course, if we are talking about small little baby, it's okay and it's fine that treatment will be made in time. But if later we cannot develop organ and brain system, saying how it will be, how it could be created in time treatment. In postnatal development, accordance with the continuing morphological maturation, the function of thyroid glands improves. Newborn, its weight ranges from 1 to 5 grams, and it decreases slightly up to 6 months, and then begins a period of rapid increase, which continues up to 5 years. After from the age of 6-7 years, the rate of increase in the mass of this gland slows down, and during puberty it again rapidly increases again, and reaches the size like for adult gland. In the pubertal period, in connection with the accelerated acceleration increase in its mass, state hyperthyroidism can arise, which manifests itself in increased excitability up to neurosis and increase in heart rate and increase the basic metabolism, which leads to weight loss, a loss of body mass. This temporary phenomenon is associated with activity of the pituitary gonadal system. So it's normal that for teenager time they have some problem or some violation of working of thyroid glands. It depends on sex gland and sex hormone secretion and sex gland development. Interesting that synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormones depend on sex hormones. The sex hormone testosterone and estrogen affect the thyroid gland directly, as well as through the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Estrogen mainly has a stimulative effect, and testosterone has inhibitory effect on the activity of the gland. Maybe we can guess that it depends on again activation of sex glands, and if for men higher metabolic activity depends on testosterone, women doesn't have testosterone, that's why extra stimulation of metabolism possible depends on influence of estrogen on the our thyroid gland. The thyroid gland reaches its maximum activity between ages 21 and 30. After it gradually decreases. Tissue sensitivity to thyroid hormones increases also with the age. The gland reaches its maximum mass in the age 40-50 years. In women, the mass of the gland is greater than in men. Its mass does not change with age. In elderly people, parenchyma of the thyroid gland is heterogeneous. The glandular tissue alternates with the lymphoid layers. The follicles are polymorphic. In some areas, the follicles disappear, the colloid is homogeneous, and it becomes denser. With age, secretion activity decreases, and the process of iodinated thymine synthesis is delayed. But decrease with the age in the thyroxine binding capacity of blood proteins has an adaptive value, which is aimed at maintaining constant concentration of the free fraction of thyroxine, which is physiologically more active. A decrease in the thyroxine binding function of blood globulin leads an increase in free thyroxine, which leads to its penetration into tissue in conditions of reduced secretion by the thyroid gland. If we will talking about parathyroid gland, which connected with the thyroid gland, the glands they begin work from the fifth, sixth week of the fetal period. And the same time starts secretion of parathyroid hormone. The function of parathyroid hormone for fetus is the same as in adults, maintain the normal concentration of calcium in the body. This process important that is independent of the mother's body. In newborns, the mass of gland is an average 5 milligram. In adults, 75, 85 milligrams. The maximum activity of the glands is observed in the first 7 years of life, especially in the first year. Insufficient production of parathyroid hormone causes tooth decay, hair loss, and excess of parathyroid hormone increased bone ossification. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. If we are talking about fetal period, it begins to be secreted from the 9th week, and by the 7th month, its content in the pituitary glands reaches a high level. During this period, the adrenal glands of the fetus respond to ACTH. They increase the rate of production, hydrocortisone, and testosterone. In the second half of intrauterine development, not only direct but also reverse connection or feedback connection, how we say with you, feedback loop, between the pituitary gland and adrenal glands of the fetus begin to operate. I will remind you, we have direct connection. This hypothalamus release releasing hormone. After this releasing hormone stimulate ACTH production, ACTH increase level of hormones of adrenal gland, cortisol, androgens, and aldosterone. And I again want to underline for you that in the second half of pregnancy, this time fetus system of pituitary, anterior lobe, and ACTH and adrenal glands full develop, and we start have already feedback connection. From the first hours after birth, children already react to stressful stimuli by increasing the content of corticosterone in the urine. However, these reactions are less pronounced, less than in adults, due to the low sensitivity of hypothalamic structure to changes in the internal and external environment of the body. The influence of the hypothalamus nuclei on the function of the adenohypophysis increases, which is accompanied by increase in ACTH secretion under condition of stress. If we are talking about old age, the sensitivity of hypothalamus nuclei decreases again, and this associated with the lower severity of the adaptation syndrome in old age. If you will look on the picture, you could find also age-related changes in the weight and in the size. For the picture, it will be in the size of pituitary gland. We could look that interesting fact. Look that if we will compare with you male and female mean pituitary gland height size, you will see that in from the start plus minus will be same, but if we are talking about adult, for women will be higher than for a man. Size of the pituitary gland, and for if we will talking about gerontological changes, age-related changes, you will see that size of pituitary gland for female higher and biggest than for men. But at the same time, the mass of pituitary gland in adult is 50-60 milligram. Its mass is greater in women than in men. During the aging of the body, the mass of pituitary gland decreases in men and does not change in women. Vascularization of the pituitary gland can be observed in old age. Anterior lobe is 75% of all mass of our pituitary gland, consists of eosinophilic, basophilic, and chromophobe cells. It's from histology knowledges. The number of eosinophilic granulocytes, they produce prolactin, decreases with an increase in the number of basophilic granulocytes. Basophilic granulocytes produce adrenocorticotropic hormone, luteinizing, follicular-stimulative hormone, thyreotropic hormone. And eosinophilic produce prolactin and produce growth hormone. So eosinophilic granulocytes decrease, but basophilic increase. Functional elements are replaced by connective tissue. A decrease in its blood supply is observed. One of the main signs of aging is the cessation of reproductive activity, decreasing reproductive activity, which depends on gonadotropic function of the pituitary gland. For women, age-related changes in gonadotropic function occur early than in men, which cause a later decrease in sexual function in men. In women between the age 40-45, the excretion of gonadotropins loses its cyclic nature. At the age 50-59, the secretion of gonadotropins increases. After 60 years, it decreases. Adrenal gland. Adrenal gland consists of medulla and cortex. By medulla, we have with you production of catecholamines. By cortex, we have with you production of mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and androgens. Newborn adrenal glands have mass around 7 gram. Growth glands happens up to 30 years, and development cortical substances is ending till beginning of second year life. From the first days after birth, glucocorticoids accept the active participation in implementation stress reaction. So their concentration too much increased. But most production glucocorticoids observed in first 3 years, as well as in puberty period. Medulla start to produce catecholamines from 16-week intrauterine period. Basic growth of medulla observed from 3 till 8 years old, as well as during puberty period. The primary cortex of the adrenal glands is laid in the embryo in the 4th-5th week of its development. A second month, the cortex is divided into two layers, thin outer layer and more massive inner layer. Hormone secretion begins at the end of second month. In the first half pregnancy, hormones are secreted in the body of the fetus by the fetal cortex of the adrenal glands. In the second half of pregnancy by outer, real true cortex of the adrenal glands. In the 8th week of embryogenesis, hormones, precursors of estrogens, are synthesized. After the 6 months of intrauterine development, glucocorticoids, cortisone begin to be produced. At 5th month of intrauterine development, the adrenal glands begin to respond to ACTH. This absolutely important connection because this exists, this connection important for fetus because glucocorticoids for fetus important for synthesis and deposition of glycogen in the liver for the development of mammary gland and lungs. Glucocorticoid necessary for the formation of surfactant in the lungs. And we have been talking with you that without surfactant, we will not have opening of our lungs and not possible their function. In the first day of newborn life, the synthesis of corticosteroids is reduced. From the 10th day, it increases again. And from the second week, it becomes like that of adults. In the third week, daily rhythm of secretion is formed. We have been talking with you, and I will remind you that if we are talking about daily rhythm of cortisol or corticosteroids, we are talking that the higher concentration of corticosteroids should be in the morning, like from 6 morning till 8 morning. That's why when cortisol level is high, we are awake and we feeling ourselves fine. If we have broken this rhythm of cortisol production, this time we have with you problem with our night sleep. We can awake in the middle of the night. In the morning, we are feeling so tired. We not have any forces and we so much want sleeping. Before puberty, the secretion of hydrocortisone is lower than in adults. At the age 12, their secretion increases. Differences in the production of corticosteroid appear. Boys produce more than girls. Corticosteroid secretion increases in children age 1-3 years. Adrenal gland dysfunction in children leads to serious disease. If we will talking about mineralocorticoids, they begin from the 4th month of intrauterine development. Aldosterone is determined in the blood of the fetus, the concentration of which increases over time. The function of the adrenal cortex changes significantly after birth. The medulla of the adrenal glands is formed late in ontogenesis. Synthesis of adrenaline begins at the end of the 3rd month of intrauterine development. Little adrenaline is produced in fetus, but working and development of adrenaline production increase from 3-4 years old to 7-8 years old. From birth to 7 years, the mass of medulla increases 2 times. At 10 years, the mass of medulla is same as for adults. Newborn children already react to the stress from the first day, while the secretion of catecholamines, mainly norepinephrine, increases in them. Catecholamines participate in thermoregulation, intensify oxidative process in case of cooling. During the first year of life, the secretion of catecholamines increases. At the age 1 to 3 years, the daily and seasonal cyclicity of the production catecholamines is formed. It's interesting. Look, the release of norepinephrine has 2 periods of daily increase. Our norepinephrine level increase at 9 till 12 hours and the second 6 till 9 hours. That's why it's usually look first of all working cortisol we awake after start increase level of catecholamines and we are feeling ourselves fine, not 8 o'clock morning but from 9 till 12 hour, and after 18-9 hour in the evening also it's like a time of activity if our written working is normal, working is fine. Excretion of adrenaline is minimal at the night. More catecholamines are produced in the spring. That's why also we are feeling in springtime, we are feeling like more energy. With age, the role of catecholamines increases in the body's adaptogenic reaction, regulation of carbohydrate, metabolism, activity in the circulatory system, and other body systems. Therefore, during childhood, the secretion of catecholamines constantly increases. Age-related changes in the structure of adrenal glands are manifested in the growth of connective tissue, development of microadenomas, focal hyperplasia, atrophy of cortical layer of the adrenal gland, degenerative changes in the nuclei and mitochondria. The glomerular zone of the adrenal gland secretes mineralocorticoids. The main hormone is aldosterone. Function maintains the body's water balance. In men, aldosterone secretion significantly decrease after age 60. For women, after 70. In the climacteric period, the sex hormones that support and enhance the activity of the glomerular zone are significantly reduced directly and with the participation of ACTH of the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. The zona fasciculata of the adrenal cortex decreases secretion of glucocorticoids after the age of 70. After 80, their level is 75 of their norm in adulthood. Administered cortisone in the elderly person disappears from the blood plasma much more slowly than for young person. That's why after the age of 70, production of glucocorticoids decreases compared to young people, but their metabolism is delayed, which causes the preservation and maintains the value of hormone in the blood. Reticular zone adrenal cortex produce androsteroids. Androgenic function of the adrenal cortex decreases significantly also after 60 years, while glucocorticoid function changes little, even at later stages of ontogenesis. At the same time, the sensitivity of the cortex of the adrenal glands to corticotropin increases. Their reactive property of the gland, their potential capabilities decrease, and the exhaustion of the functional activity of the adrenal glands increases rapidly. The medulla of adrenal glands in the autonomous part of the body secrete catecholamines on which the aging process of the body depends. In old age, for all people, synthesis of mediators of the nervous system decreases. Their capture by sympathetic ganglia and nerves weakness, the ways of their transformation redistributed, the sensitivity of adrenal receptors increases. Seasonal fluctuation of catecholamines in different parts of the brain in adulthood and old age, as well as diurnal fluctuation and fluctuation in the case of stressful condition change. Pineal gland. Pineal gland in newborns reach on average 0.008 gram. Immediately after birth, it decreases and they continuously increase until 10-14 year and remains stable thereafter. increase you could see like in more than 100 times. In girls, this gland is slightly larger than boys. After 20 years, the shape, weight, and size of the gland remain constant. In old age, the pineal gland undergoes reverse development, involution. Function of pineal gland, this is production of melatonin. Melatonin produced by pineal gland inhibits sexual and physical development, blocks the function of thyroid gland. This is important because decrease in the hormone production function of the pineal gland is observed from the age 4-7 year and during puberty. The concentration of this hormone in the blood is reduced. The rudiments of the pineal gland appear in the 6-7 week of the fetal period. The cells that form and develop from macroglia. Vessels in the pineal gland are formed at third month of embryonic development. It is assumed that this time the pineal gland is already functioning. Changes occur in the structure of the pineal cells with age. I want to remind you that pineal gland produces for us melatonin. Melatonin responsible for our 24-hour cyclic period. We have the highest concentration of melatonin in the night. Time of high concentration melatonin, this is from 10-12 a.m. till 4 a.m. Function of melatonin and properties of melatonin were discovered. These oncostatic properties, antioxidant, sleep regulation, anti-inflammatory, immunoregulation, metabolic regulation, neurogenesis, cell protection, anti-aging. So all these function, our melatonin will be induced and produced only in the case if we will sleeping in time and in right condition for production of melatonin. Pancreas. Pancreas, main hormone which is produced for us pancreas, this will be glucagon, insulin, somatostatin, pancreatic polypeptide, and also ghrelin. About ghrelin, we will talking with you during physiological classes when we will talk about regulation of starvation. But about insulin and glucagon, we have been talking already, and we discussed this question function of both of these hormones. Differentiation of cells that secrete insulin and glucagon occurs during the third month of intrauterine development. In pancreatic islet, secretory cells mature at the end of 5 months. The synthesis of insulin in the fetus begins early in the 8-9 week of embryogenesis, but its concentration remains low until 7 months. After 7 months, the concentration of insulin increased 5 times and remains so until the moment of birth. The content of glucagon increases in the process intrauterine development and reaches the level of adults. In the fetus, insulin and glucagon regulate carbohydrate metabolism and affect the concentration of glucose in the blood plasma. After birth, the pancreas continues to develop, including its endocrine system. The number of alpha and beta cells increases. As the total mass of the gland increases, the mass of the intrasecretory apparatus relatively decreases. With aging, the structure of insular apparatus changes. The number and size of pancreatic islet cell, the structure of capillary walls decreases. Beta cells hyperfunction is observed, At the same time, dystrophic change occur in the insular apparatus that lead to decrease in insulin activity. Hyperfunction of the insular apparatus and increase the level of insulin in the blood in people after the 60 years old is an adaptive reaction aimed to maintain glucose metabolism. And we know with use that level of glucose for the old people after 60, 70 years old higher than for adults. In old age, somatostatin deficiency develops, which becomes of the causes of impaired glucose tolerance. Elderly people, there is pronounced activation of the lateral nuclei of the hypothalamus, which increase the secretion of insulin through the pituitary gland. This is absolutely interesting information because normally we say that we not have directly influence from pituitary gland to pancreas, but it's not true. And we have connection through the somatotropin, somatostatin, growth hormone, important for regulation of insulin production. During the aging, the body of the one hand hormone activity decrease. On the other hand, structural and metabolic changes occur in tissues. With age, there is decrease in the reactive ability of tissues, which further disrupts the body's insulin supply. One more gland, this is thymus. Thymus, this temporal gland, is a central organ of immunogenesis. The gland is implanted at 4-6 weeks of intrauterine development. Largest weight in relation to body weight is typical for fetus and newborn. After 2 years, the relative mass of the gland decreases while its absolute mass increases. The maximum absolute weight, 25-30 grams, of the gland reaches up to 13-14 years, after which its development stops. With age, the thymus decreases greatly, being replaced by connective and fatty tissue. It stops its work, and the cortical substance undergoes the greatest changes. The functions of the gland are related to the development of immunity in the newborn period and childhood. It is assumed that the involuntary changes of the gland are associated with the beginning of the release of sex hormone in pubertal period. We have information that hormones of thymus induce inhibition of development of sex glands. And when sex glands start to development, this time hormones of thymus decrease their function, and this time and important that these hormones of thymus also stimulate growth process. When growth process will be finished, this time will be start working our sexual glands or gonads. Gonads are developing from the only one germ layer. Sexual differentiation takes place in the 7-8 week embryonic development. Man sexual gland 11-17 week. Level androgens in the female fetus sex reaches values characteristic in adult body. Thanks to this development, sexual hormones are male type. The weight of the testicle in newborn 0.3 gram. It is hormone production activity reduced. Under influence, gonadolibrin from the age 12-13 is gradually grows up to 16-17 years, reach equal adults. Hormone producing activity causes pubescent growth, sprout, spurt, appearance secondary sexual signs, and after 15 years old activation of spermatogenesis. If you're talking about women's sexual glands, it's starting to developed 20s week intrauterine period. In the ovaries happens formation primordial follicles until the moment of birth. Mass ovary is 5-6 gram. In adult women, 6-8 years. Follicular during postnatal ontogenesis, cells produce estrogen in different quantities depending on age. Low level estrogen up to 8 years creates possibility differentiation hypothalamus according to the female type. Production estrogens during puberty already sufficient for the pubertal jump. This time happens skeletal growth as well as for development secondary sexual signs. Gradual growth production estrogen leads to menarche and formation of a regular menstrual cycle. We can divide the sexual development of girls according to what I say to you. For T period, neutral, pre-pubertal and pubertal. Puberty, in neutral, we not have production of sex hormone. Pre-pubertal, it start to releasing some hormones, but this time we have intensive growth of the skeleton take place, and puberty from 12-13 years old. Eggs have begun to mature in ovaries, but it's usually girls have irregular menstrual cycle, and regular cycle is established until 18 years old. Between 45-55, menopause occurs. Menstrual cycle again become irregular, short or long. The menstruation disappear. For a puberty of boys, it's happened from 10 till 20 years old. Here we have two periods. First, from 10 till 15 years old. Second, after 15 years old, when the period of spermatogenesis begins. With the hypofunction of the testicles, puberty in boys is delayed. This time, as a result, we could have female-like body proportion at the age 15-16 years old. The first signs of puberty in boys are increase in the size of testicles and external genitalia. Under the influence of male sex hormones, androgens, secondary sexual characteristics appear. Muscle grow intensively. Figure gradually acquires a male silhouette. And main changes will be finished till 25 years old. The formation of spermatozoa and sex hormone in the male body continues until age 50-55. After, then gradually stops. And conclusion that endocrine glands begin to function in the intrauterine period. Their development is heterochronous. At the same time, hypothalamic pituitary control is established at the last stage of intrauterine development. Hormones and biological active substance affect the growth and development of the embryo and fetus. The zygote already produces acetylcholine, catecholamines, and serotonin, which are necessary for its fragmentation. Estradiol, progesterone are required for the transformation of the morula into blastocyst. The hormones of placenta as well as the hormones of the fetus are important for the proper development of its organ and system. For example, glucocorticoids are necessary for the development of the lungs, thymus, hematopoietic organs, and androgens are necessary for sexual differentiation. In the postnatal period, the endocrine system plays an extremely important role for the process of growing development of the body. thyroid hormones, pituitary gland hormones, and insulin pancreas hormone, as well as sex hormone, promote bone growth, development of the muscular system, brain, and genitals. Before the sexual development, the leading role belongs the growth hormone, insulin, and sex hormone. Complex hormone like melatonin, serotonin, thyroid, gonadotropin, follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, androgens, estrogen determines the start and rate of puberty. It should be noted that during breastfeeding with mother's milk, the child receives many hormones, in particular prolactin, which plays an important role in the formation of reproductive function and brain development. And second part, we have time with you. We will talking about 8 features of the physiology of higher nervous activity. Continuing talking about hormones and importance of hormones to a body growing, we should say about some researches which show it and prove that formation central nervous system activity, which provides various forms behavior, which are called higher nervous activity, begins during utera period. Consequence, what they can manifest it in behavior in childhood and in adulthood of age. A lot lately attention is located impact mother's emotional state during pregnancy on the fetus and further development child. So it was found that the mother's emotional stress during pregnancy leads to premature birth, and in born children it correlates with small mass that is risk of many physical and mental disorders, hypersensitivity to stress, morbidity, autistic disorders, attention deficiency, hyperactivity, a low level of intelligence, school failures, tendency to drug addiction, deep depression, problems of suicide, and is a risk factor for development of schizophrenia. This is all influence of chronic stress from the mother's body. High-level anxiety mothers during pregnancy, especially in the early stages, connected with the decreased volume of gray substance in many areas of brain of the children. For example, decreasing quantity of the cell of the prefrontal cortex, what provides reasoning, planning, attention, working, memory. Areas associated, affect areas associated with hippocampus, what participate in the memory process. Affected areas, temporal cortex, that provide processing, social, emotional, including information, recognition, and semantic memory, some aspect of language, and defect in the structures of auditory analyzer and brain system what involved in language studying. This all effect of anxiety mother during pregnancy. When we are talking about higher level of information analysis and in the sensitive areas of the cortex of the cerebral hemisphere is manifested in the psyche. Behavior is an adaptive activity that includes a set of human action and deeds in response to the influence of internal and external factors. Psyche, from the Greek, means soul, is the ability of the brain to reflect to external world in the form of sensation, ideas, thought, some action, and so on. Higher nervous activity is activity of the higher departments of the central nervous system, which provides various forms of adaptation to environmental conditions. Behavior is based on a certain system of reaction to stimuli of external and internal environment, named as reflexes. They endure the interaction of the organism with the environment. Types of higher nervous activity. We will study with you types of higher nervous activity depends on characteristic of nervous process, characteristic of excitation and inhibition. This process we can describe according to three characteristics: intensity, balance, and mobility. If we compare all type of higher nerve activity, we will say that excitation and inhibition intensity people could be strong and weak. If we say about weak, it means that high intensity of excitation or inhibition not possible for these people. This name melancholic people. If people strong, for intensity of excitation and inhibition, we can divide them according to balance. Well balanced people equal excitation to inhibition, unbalanced when excitation dominant under inhibition. Here we say about choleric people. And well balanced people we can divide it for mobile and low mobile process people. If we are talking mobile, it means excitation, easy change to inhibition, and opposite. Here we have sanguine people and low mobile when excitation not so easy to change to inhibition. Here we are talking about phlegmatic people. The period of puberty makes significant adjustment of the characteristic of the type of higher nervous activity of teenagers. So we can say about type of, for be sure about type of higher nervous activity, only after completion of process of puberty. If we are talking about mental activity, we can all mental activity divide by innate mental activity like instinct and unconditioned reflexes. Second, it's learning. For learning, we have with you habituation is the simplest form of learning, which consists in weakening the response to a stimulus upon repeated presentation. Imprinting, imitation, conditioned reflex, and operating learning or a dynamic stereotype. And considerate activity, this is the highest level of mental activity. Here we're talking about thoughtful activity as ability of animal to perceive empirical laws that connect objects and phenomena of external world and to operate with this law in new situation. And human intelligence is a general cognitive ability that determines readings to learn, use knowledge and experience, as well as intelligent behavior in problem situation. I will tell you about some type of learning education in our life. Imprinting or coining. Instantly is a rule strong for long time assimilation of any educational programs based on special functional state of the central nervous system. First of all, imprinting have been shown with the experiment with little dog. What is experiment? A scientist found that when small dog births, first shape, first person, what they see, they thinking this is their mama, and they begin imprinting or coining all behavior what they see. It's like like photo in the memories for them, and they all time follow this object or subject. Normally, they should see mother duck, and they follow everywhere for the mom and doing the same behavior what she doing. But under experiment was different story. When after birth they see first dog, and they after follow dog everywhere and thinking their dog. When they see some scientists, they thinking scientists their mama, and they follow and try to repeat the same behavior what he was doing. When we are talking about human growing, we say about the same story. When we see some picture in our life, we could not even, we can not remember, we cannot memorize this story, but this picture like imprinting will be stay in our brain. And take out this program so hard. Negative side of imprinting is the possibility assimilation for a long time is destructive programs behavior that is enough hard to change, because in terms of strength engraved information to definitely reflects behavior. How you could see upside picture if baby was growing in the not normal, not comfortable conditions for baby growing, with low moral conditions, after will be turned back this baby to the same condition in his or her life. Imitation absolutely important part of our brain working and our brain growing. Imitation is coping action other individuals exist data as that once after birth baby already owns the ability to imitate from the first hours of life. Observed synchronization micro movements of the child with the rhythm of the conversation in adult imitation movements as those leading elements face which were key in their perception. This imitation have been shown by scientists that imitation working because of functioning of mirror neurons in our cortex. In our large hemispheres, we have some zone with neurons which are called as mirror neurons. And you could see example for the monkey, that if monkey will take some bananas, this time animal has activity of some zone, motor zone and visual zone of the cortex. And interesting, when a monkey not doing something but looking for the scientist with a banana in her hand, the same zone of our brain activated under only looking for some other one people, some other person will doing the same act. Interesting that mirrors neurons play an important role in imitation, mastery, action, development, speech. For mirror neuron in Broca zones, recognize it oral movements, take part information affection in the early of age, they can draw up the biological basis of empathy. Mirror neurons play a role in formation ethical, ideological, moral principles. The child tries to imitate adults and there be practically learn the principles that guide adults in their action, not the rules of conduct which are trying to teach addressing, it means that important not what we are saying for children, important what we are doing, because our word more weak than our action. Word not not activate, not induce activation of mirror neurons, but our action induce these mirror neurons, and baby will be repeat everything what we are doing. For example, the same story, if we say that should be use healthy food, is that you should be not smoke, you should not use alcohol, but at the same time we will doing all of that, of course our words will not have any sense for growing children. Our nearly they will be not show that they're using something of that what I say, but after in adult time they will doing the same how did their parents. Conditioned reflexes. Conditioned reflexes for feeding time develops on the end of first week of life. Conditional sucking reflex in position for feeding occur by the end of second week. Later is formed conditional olfactory reflex, tasteful irritants, and the skin tactile and visual irritants. Conditional reflex for newborns baby are unstable. They are produced at the night, more difficult than first of all, for small children, they produce more and more newborn children, more difficult than for older children. In the cortex of the large hemisphere process, irradiation prevail over process of concentration. I will remind you, process irradiation, process of concentration of electric signal, and because of irradiation prevail, it leads to significant speed stimulation of the cell of the cortex of newborns, quickly get tired, easily occurs beyond the limit breaking, and children are sleeping about 20 hours a day. Dynamic stereotype. Dynamic stereotype, these chain conditional reflexes, what is carried out in clearly in a time defined order is a reaction organism on a complex system of conditional irritants. Because of dynamic stereotype, we are able with you for cycling, musical game tools is a basis organization of daily routine. Because of dynamic stereotype forms by rhythm of human stereotypes hard the broken by rhythm is process may lead to neurosis. 3-5-year-old is improving conditioned reflex activity, internal braking, increased number dynamic stereotype. 7-11 years, conditional reflexes are formed quickly and firmly, are resistant to external influence. 12 years old, significantly changed conditional reflex activity. Teenager increases the excitability of central nervous system and is weakened process braking. 13-15 years old, speed formation condition, visual reflex, sound, and tactile irritants is growing, but language irritants happen more difficult. That's why for 13-15 years old, we have as usually problem with concentration and with learning some knowledges. 17-18 years old, normalizing of higher nervous activity. About attention, we have from the birth, we have involuntary attention for newborns. Involuntary attention related to activity, right hemisphere. Voluntary attention formed from 10 months life with development language under influence of adult people. To 5 years, voluntary attention is easily inhibited by involuntary. So it means that till 5 years old, even till 6 years old, so hard to concentrate attention for baby. 6-7 years old appears mature form of attention related to structural and functional development, frontal departments of cortex. In the process of games is absolutely necessary process for growing and animal and children. Child learns to listen, how to watch carefully and attentionally. Outdoor games include alternating movement and stillness, which is preceded by the need concentrate, which contributes to the development of attention, which is important to learning process. 9-10 years mechanism voluntary regulation are improving activation process, become more managed because of further maturation frontal cortex. The pubertal period weakens the regulatory influence of the cortex on activation process, attention, and its voluntary regulation deteriorate. Old age. In people after 75, clear changes in strength, mobility, and balance of nervous process. The first change in physiological process in the cortex is decreased functional mobility. This is explained by the weakening of the influence of the ascending and descending system of reticular formation of the brain. During aging, efficiency of nerve cells decreases. Recovery process lags behind the exhaustion process, shift in the energy supply of neurons, in the active transport of ions, changes in the cell membrane lead to an increase in the period of repolarization and to long duration of action potential, which reduce the lability of neurons. Conditioned reflex activity in people 60-65 years has no significant changes compared to people of young age. At the age 67-70 years, an insufficient concentration of nervous process is already determined. Inhibition prevails, especially in the second signaling system. Inhibition are associated with hyperpolarization of the membrane and increase in the excitability threshold of cells. The people over 75 years old, the main complaint is memory loss. The relationship between memory impairment and the state of somatic health is being followed. The second problem of the aging process is the problem of slowing down the mental reaction. Increase in the duration of nervous reaction is considered a general and universal sign of aging of brain structures, which is explained by the delay of impulses in peripheral nerve pathways, as well as violation of the associative connection of certain areas of the cerebral cortex. In the elderly and old people, capacity of conceptual activities decrease, prudence decrease, language is preserved relatively well. And if we will believe that the optimum development of intellectual function occurs age 18-20, if the logical ability 20-year-old is taken as 100%, 30 years, it will be 96%, 40 years, 87, at the 50, 80%, 60, 75 percent will be after 75% will be after 60 years old. A verbal logical function reach their first optimum in years, then they can increase again in adulthood till 50 years old and decreasing after 60 years old. Again, the background of some life condition. In the absence of rational routine of the day, changes contribute to the appearance of mental syndromes and disease characteristic of late antigenesis, in particular age-related depression, um, psychosis, late life hallucination, and senile dementia. Its early and malignant manifestation of which is Alzheimer disease. Alzheimer disease. Physiological aging of the brain can be contracted with the help of active intellectual load. When learning and assimilating new information, nerve fibers grow in the brain. New connections are formed, thereby slowing down atrophic process. Maintaining intercellular and creative activity in the second half of life prevents premature aging, and not only mental but also physical aging. American doctors have proven that intellectuals, while maintaining clearly of thinking, live several years longer than people who work physically. Emotions, spices, intellectual workload such as reading books, enjoying theater and movies, leave brain passive. Developing only imagination and about intellectuals action, we will intellectual characteristic we will not growing. That's why um, intellectual load by decision specific tasks in any activity similar to decision scientific problems, crosswords, riddles, reading words backwards. This all of that stimulate process of thinking and cause influx blood to the head that improves blood supply brain and nutrition of nervous cells. And intellectual works, scientific work will be help for safe brain cortex. In order to save health, person must maintain normal body mass, systemically engage physical exercise, don't abuse alcohol and smoking. Periodic health screenings can detect disease in their early stages when they can be most effectively treated. Uh, for today, that's all. Thank you for your attention. Wish you a good day. Goodbye.
Дякую, до побачення.
До побачення.